Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Selenium Tech Automation. So in this today tutorial, I am going to discuss about the complete project folder structure of hybrid framework, and also I am going to show you this hybrid framework how we are going to build. Okay, and also I am going to show you how we are going to build all our test cases, and also how we are going to create our properties file, and also how we are going to maintain our test data inside our .xlsx files, and also how we can generate output .xlsx file with all the status, like if there is any failed test case, so we are going to update the result status into our output sheet .xlsx, and also at the same time if there are any past test cases, so how we are going to update inside our output sheet .xlsx file. Okay, so before going to start this video, so please don't skip this video, and also please watch this video till the end, because this framework is little bit complex and also it is a little bit tricky. Okay, and also please share this video to your friends or colleagues so that they will also learn from this video. Okay, and also please subscribe to my channel if you are new to here. Okay, so let's get started with our hybrid framework. Okay, I have already made one dedicated video about hybrid framework folder structure. Okay, I am going to provide that video link inside this tutorial description part. Okay, so if you want, you can check that video as well before coming to this tutorial. Okay, so first we will discuss about what is a hybrid framework. Okay, what is a hybrid framework? So here hybrid framework is a combination of data driven and keyword driven frameworks. Okay, it is not only about data driven and keyword driven, and also page object model and keyword driven, and also data driven plus page object model, means where we are combining two kind of frameworks. Okay, that one called as hybrid framework. Okay, so in this today tutorial I am going to discuss about mainly about keyword driven frameworks. Okay, so here what is a keyword driven framework? Okay, so what is a keyword driven framework? Here the name itself, it is showing it will completely concentrating on keywords. Okay, the name itself, it is telling or it is showing that is completely concentrating on keywords only. Okay, here what are the keywords? Okay, what are the keywords here? Suppose if we have an common functionality or common methods, those are all the keywords. Okay, suppose if we have to do some common functionalities or some common methods, so those we can consider here as keywords. Okay, if we come to common functionalities, what is common functionalities or what are common methods? Okay, so if we come to what is common functionalities and what are common methods, means so the common methods are common functionalities if we are going to take any common method. Okay, for example, I am going to perform some click operation. Okay, because this click operation we are going to use multiple times inside our application. So likewise we can have send keys action, and also we can have mouse over, and also handling the drop downs, and also and also we can have handling the radio buttons, and also handling the suggestion list. Okay, so these are all the common functionalities. Okay, the common methods are common functionalities which are we are going to use it repeatedly along with our application. Okay, so those we can consider as common functionalities. Okay, so those we can consider as common functionalities or common methods. Okay, so we can just create only once and we can use n number of times. Okay, so we can create this common method only once, but we can use this common method n number of times inside our application or inside our framework, right? So the main advantage of this common method or common functionality is reusability. Okay, the main advantage of common functionality or common method is reusability. Okay, so here I told examples, right? I have already told you the examples like click operation, send keys operation, mouse over, drop down. Okay, likewise we can have many kinds of common functionalities. So these common functionalities we are going to mention with the help of keyword. Okay, with the help of keyword framework. Okay, so these common functionalities we will write, and these common functionalities or common methods, so we are going to mention inside our .xlsx file in the form of keywords. Okay, so first I will show you the folder structure of keyword driven framework. So here I created a Maven project. You can see here this is our keyword driven Maven project. Okay, so inside this keyword driven Maven project, so I have source src main java folder. Okay, src main java folder. So inside this I created a package. Okay, I created several packages. So what are all the several packages you can see? So we have actual tests, and also we can have excel file utils package, and also we can have common actions package, and also we can have tests package, and also we can have utilities package, and also we can have excel file folder, and also we can have properties file folder. Okay, and also we can have drivers folder as well. Okay, and also so we can have one more folder that is called as test output folder. Okay, first I will discuss about one by one in a sequential way. So first, okay, first what we need to do, for example, I want to launch any browser. Okay, first I want to launch any browser means I have to store all that browser information and also URL information. I am going to store inside this. Okay, I am going to store inside which one? Dot properties file, right? I am going to store all these inside our dot properties file. Okay, I am going to store all these in the form of dot properties file. Okay, so that's why I created a folder called here you can see properties file. Okay, inside this properties file I am going to store all my browser and URL. Okay, all my browser and URL. Okay, for example, why we are using this properties file means, so this properties file can store any kind of information. Okay, this kind of any kind of information we are going to store inside this dot properties file. Okay, we are going to store dot properties file, because here property file means we can store any kind of data into property file. Okay, we can store any kind of data into property file, which means it is a storage device, right? Which means it is a storage device, right? We can store any kind of data inside this properties file. Okay, we can store any kind of data inside this property file. So we can retrieve the property file information with the help of I created a class. Okay, for example, I want to retrieve this data. Okay, here I mentioned my browser as edge, that is my key here is browser and my value here is edge. Okay, so in the same way I mentioned my URL, and also I mentioned the value as the website URL. Okay, likewise if we have XPath also we can keep inside our properties file. So likewise if you have any DB related URLs and DB related credentials, so those and all we can store inside this properties file only. Here properties file means mainly it is a storage device, right? So mainly it is a storage device. Okay, after storing I want to retrieve the data from this properties file. Okay, so after storing some data into this properties file, I want to retrieve, right? I want to launch my browser, edge browser, and also I want to open my application, that is orange hrm. Okay, how we can retrieve these values from properties file? Okay, how we can retrieve these values from properties file means, so first I have to create a package, so where I am going to write my code to retrieve all the key and values to perform my open application, right? So for that I have created already one package name called as utilities. Okay, you can see com.orangehrm.utilities. Okay, this is the naming convention for any kind of Maven project. Okay, that should be followed with com dot that project name dot utilities folder. Okay, inside this utilities I am going to write a code to retrieve the data from dot properties file. Okay, I am going to write the code for retrieving the values from properties file, right? So I am going to write the code for retrieving the properties file. So I created a class inside this utilities package that is called property file utils class, right? That is called properties file util class. Okay, so here you can see what we can do with the help of file input stream, how we can write. So with the help of file input stream we can easily read the data from the properties file. Okay, by using file input stream we are going to read the data, complete data from dot properties file, right? So for that I write this line, that is file input stream equals to file input stream of, here I mention dot operator. Okay, I can mention the absolute path also okay, but in real time we have to mention in the same way like how I mentioned here. By putting one dot operator, it will pointing to your project folder. So thereafter, what is my, where is my properties file got located? Inside this properties file folder, okay, inside this properties file folder. So I am going to mention the properties file name here, after that folder name here, after that what is my file name? That is environment dot properties file. Okay, this is my file name called environment dot properties file. Okay, so after this what I am going to create here, I am going to use properties class. Okay, what does it will do? This properties class represent a persistent set of properties. Okay, these properties will hold the values which are present inside this properties file, that is environment dot properties. Okay, with the help of the object of these properties class, I am going to load the this file. Okay, I am going to load this file input stream file that is called as FIS. Okay, so after this I want to return a key from that properties file, right? So for that I am taking this method return type as string. Okay, so we are going to return this string value here. Okay, with the help of properties object I am going to get the property for that key. If you go to this method, you can see here it is clearly telling searches for the property with the specified key in this property list. Okay, with the help of get property method we are going to search for this key what we represented here, we are going to search for that key. Okay, so this is about properties file class. Okay, where we are going to retrieve the keys and values from properties file. Okay, let me zoom a little bit. Okay, let me zoom. Okay, you can see here this is our code for retrieving the value from properties file. Okay, once properties file is done, so our what is our next step? Okay, once properties file is done, what is our next step? So now we can able to retrieve the values from this properties file, right? We can able to retrieve the key and values from this properties file. Okay, based upon the key I want to retrieve the value for browser, based upon the key I want to retrieve the value for URL, right? So that's why we are using here get property. If I pass key value here as key name here as browser, it will retrieve the value for me as edge. If I pass get value for key as URL, it will give the value as this one https orangehrmlive.com. Okay, so next what is our next step here? Okay, what is our next step here? Now we done with properties file. So after that what is our next step? So we are going to create a class for all our common functionalities, right? This is our second folder here. Okay, so once if you done with your property file util, after storing the information into properties file, our next step is going to perform some actions, right? So what are all the actions we can have? So those are all send keys, click action, and select a value from drop down, and also mouse over on particular element, click action. Okay, these are all the common actions, right? So for that actions I'm going to create a separate package called com.orangehrm.common actions. Okay, com.orangehrm.common actions. Okay, this is our next package. Inside this package I'm going to create a class called common actions. Okay, I'm going to create a class called common actions. So here you can see, okay, here you can see I written it is a WebDriver return type, and also it is a static. Okay, and also this method is static method. Okay, this method is static method, right? So this method is static method. So we are going to provide string locator type here as well as locator value also. Okay, we are going to provide, for example, first what we need to do, so before going to perform any actions, first I want to launch my browser, right? So for that here I created a method called start browser with the parameter of WebDriver only. Okay, because at the time of launching my browser I want to retrieve my respective driver, right? So where it got present inside my properties file, as we already saw, right? Okay, inside my properties file I defined already. Okay, let me where is this one? Yeah, common actions, right? Why it is, okay, let me minimize. Okay. Okay, this is my common actions class. Okay, this is my common actions class. So where I'm going to write all my common actions or common methods, okay, which I'm going to reuse for multiple times. For that I will create the class called as common actions class. So here first, before going to perform any actions, so what is our first step? We have to launch our browser, right? For that I created a method called as public static WebDriver start browser WebDriver of driver. Okay, this method is called start browser, so which is accepting a parameter called WebDriver reference. Okay, WebDriver interface. So along with this interface I am going to perform some if statements here. Okay, if my property file utils contains this value, I mean this key, and if it is equals or equals ignore case of Firefox, so then you can launch my driver as Firefox browser. Okay, so if property file utils, okay, you can see inside this property file utils class we have this object, right? I am going to call with the help of object name. Okay, so that's why I mentioned here, okay, property file utils class name dot, what is our method name here? Get value for key. Okay, what is our method name here? Get value for key. What does this get value for key will do? It will go to that properties file and it will fetch that key. Based upon the key it will retrieve the value, it will give us the value, right? So that's why I'm mentioning here, if my property file utils dot get value for key, that is browser dot equals ignore case of Firefox, you can launch my Firefox browser. Okay, if my property file browser key contains the value as Chrome, you can launch the Chrome driver. And if my property file utils.get value for key containing the key browser value as Edge, you can launch my driver as Edge driver. Okay, so by end of this method what we are returning? We are returning some driver to launch our browser. So okay, that's why the return type of this method, that is start browser, is driver. Okay, we are returning some driver to launch our browser, either it will be Firefox or Chrome or Edge. Okay, so that's why we are mentioned here the Edge. Okay, if it is Edge, so it will give me the driver as Edge driver. Okay, so likewise, so after launching the browser, what is our next step? Our next step will be Gmail application. Okay, our next step will be Gmail application. Sorry, it is not the Gmail application, open application. Okay, this is method called as open application. It is also returning the driver type of driver. Okay, WebDriver only it is also returning. So after launching the browser, what we need to do? I have to do maximize my browser. Okay, for that I used this statement called driver.manage.window.maximize. Okay, it is also accepting one parameter called WebDriver interface only. So once you maximize, we need to get the URL. So where is that URL got located? Inside our properties file. You can see here that URL got located inside this properties file with the key name as URL. Okay, with the key name as URL. So that's why I call this driver.get method. Get method, what it will do? It will take the application URL from properties file. Okay, the key here is URL. Based upon my key, it will retrieve the value as my application URL, and finally it is also returning the driver only. Okay, once this is done, what is our next action? That is common action, that is called click action. Okay, so I am going to create a method only once, but I can use a number of times. Okay, so for that I am going to pass different parameters here. Okay, different parameters here, that is called, we provided one string locator type here, and also we provided one more parameter that is called as locator value. Okay, we declare the parameter into these methods, right? We declare these methods into click action method, right? We declared all these parameters for this click action method. So but where we are going to pass all this? Okay, where we are going to pass all this information, locator type, locator value, where we are going to pass? Okay, if you pass, then only you can access that web element, right? But we are not passing anything here, we are just defining here. Okay, to access all these locators, we are going to store inside one file that is called as .xlsx file. Okay, Excel file. Okay, so we are going to pass all these parameters inside our .xlsx file. Okay, we are passing all this complete information into the Excel sheet. Okay, we are going to pass all this information into the Excel sheet. Okay, so that is locator type and locator value. Okay, we are going to pass these two parameters inside our Excel document. Okay, this is about click action. This is also one common functionality. So for that, how we are doing, if locator type dot equals ignore case of id. Okay, if locator type dot equals ignore case of id, so then that WebDriver is going to find that element and it will get the locator value from xlsx document only, and then it is performing click action. Okay, likewise, if my locator type, okay, we can have different types of locators such as id, name, xpath, okay, css also. So we can, based upon the locator type, we are going to write some if condition here. Okay, for id I created this if condition. If it is not the id, then go to else if condition, and also if it is also not the name, so then it is going to check for xpath. Okay, based upon the locator type, it is going to fetch the value for locator value and it is performing click action. Okay, so for example, I launched one application, so where I am going to enter my username. So how we can enter our username? With the help of send keys action. Okay, for that also we created one more method that is called as type action. Okay, which is also accepting these parameters, that is WebDriver, string locator type and string locator value and string data. Okay, so to enter my username means, so we have to store that information in the form of xlsx document. Okay, that's why I created one more parameter that is called as string data. Okay, so coming to this, inside this method, so if you can see here, if locator type dot equals ignore case of id. Okay, if that locator is id, so then we are going to enter the test data. Here test data means where we are going to store inside our xlsx file. After this, if that locator type is equals ignore case of name, so then you can take that locator value with the help of name, then we are going to enter the test data. Where is this data got located? This data is located inside our .xlsx file, right? So likewise we can create how many methods if you want, like common functionalities, all we are going to keep inside this common actions class only. Okay, that is all about these common actions. Okay, that is all about these common actions. Okay, so then to access all these common actions or common methods, so as we discussed, I am going to store all these into some .xlsx file. Okay, okay, the complete information, the complete methods I am going to store inside my .xlsx file. Okay, the first, so let me open our xlsx document so that it will be easy for you to understand. Okay, so let me go to this one and tutorials. Okay, refresh. Okay, let me refresh. Okay, so here it is available inside this keyboard driven. So here you can see this is our input test sheet, right? Input test sheet. So let me open. Okay, so here is our actual test input test sheet.xlsx file. Okay, this is our actual input test sheet.xlsx file. Okay, we already created methods for all the common functionalities, so we are going to store all this information inside our xlsx document. Like how we are going to store, so you can see here, okay, here you can see the locator type and locator value. Okay, I have already created a column called locator type. If locator type is xpath, okay, if locator type is xpath, okay, so then it is going to take the value where it is present, here it is present, that is locator value. Okay, this locator value is containing the xpath value. Okay, likewise we can have likewise we can store all this information into .xlsx file. Okay, so this is a one sheet. Okay, input test sheet.xlsx file. So this is the main sheet, okay, where we are going to store all the complete information. Okay, so we are going to complete information we are going to store inside this input test sheet dot xlsx file. Okay, so we stored all the information, like for example, I want to open my browser. Okay, for opening the browser we don't want any locator type and locator value, and also we don't need any test data, so that's why I mentioned here as not applicable. Okay, only we need to mention here is the method name. Okay, we can see here we already created common functionality methods here, common methods, that is start browser. We are going to pass all these method names inside my object type column. Okay, this is for start browser, this is for open application. What does this open application will do? It will launch our URL by getting the value by getting the key from dot properties file, right? So likewise, if I want to perform click action, so I am going to mention the method name here. You can see click action. Okay, so the naming convention should be the same. Okay, the naming convention should be the same here, Gmail application. So then I am providing the click action here. Okay, after that, okay, let me modify this one, not Gmail application, open application, right? Okay, so after that what is the next method? Type action, right? So the same I'm going to mention inside my .xlsx file, the same method name. So if you want to use if you want to create a common method for wait conditions also, we can create in the same way only. So for the which web element we are going to wait, so we have to take the parameters as locator type and locator value here also. If that is id, it is going to use that explicitly wait conditions methods. Okay, and if it is name, so again it is taking the value from here only. So likewise we are going to mention all our methods which are common methods inside this .xlsx file. Okay, inside this .xlsx file. Okay, here you can see the first sheet name here is the first sheet name what we mentioned here, modules. Okay, we are going to mention the complete modules. We need to provide sheet name as modules. Okay, we are going to mention all the modules inside this modules sheet. Okay, which is containing, suppose I have one module that is called as application login. Okay, for this application login I am going to store inside my module sheet. Okay, so likewise if you have any other module, so you can add inside this modules sheet only. Okay, the first sheet will contain all the modules. Okay, we are going to mention the complete modules inside this module sheet name only. Okay, the syntax here is the first column is test case id. What is the test case id and what is your module name? My module name here is application login. And what is your execution mode? If my execution mode, if I make it to yes, it will take this module to execute. And also I have to mention the status as y. Okay, I will discuss about this in a couple of minutes in this video. Okay, so likewise we are going to keep all our modules inside this main sheet that is called as module sheet. Okay, so for that how we can read the values from Excel document. Okay, how we can read the values from the Excel document. Okay, so for that let me create one new folder or package. Okay, here I already created a package called as Excel file utils. Okay, com.excel file utils. Okay, I want to, now we stored all the keys inside this .xlsx file, that is input sheet .xlsx file. Okay, to retrieve all this information from this .xlsx file, I need a class, right? So for that reason I am going to create a class inside my com.excel file utils package. Okay, what is that package name? com.excel file utils is my package name. Inside that package name I am going to create one new class called excel file utils. Okay, this is our excel file utils class. Okay, this is our excel file utils class, right? One second guys. Okay, this is my Excel file utils class. Okay, to retrieve all the information, complete information from my input sheet.xlsx file. Okay, so for that, because all the modules are available inside this input sheet.xlsx file only, and also corresponding modules. Like this is my module 1. Likewise, we can have multiple modules in one application, right? So this entire complete information I am going to retrieve. Okay, how we can retrieve? Okay, how we can retrieve? With the help of .xlsx file only. Okay, the complete execution is going on by using of Excel sheet only. Okay, our complete execution will going on with the help of this Excel file utils class only. Okay, here we have to follow the priority. Okay, here in xlsx file, if we are using keyword driven framework, means we have to follow the priority. Okay, if we don't follow the priority, obviously we will your test cases will fail definitely. Okay, because Excel sheet is the main important for keyword driven framework. Okay, this is the most important stage. Okay, this is the most crucial situation if we are working with keyword driven framework. So that's why it is very important to follow the priorities for flow, application flow. For example, first I am going to launch my open browser. Okay, after that what I am going to do, I am going to open my application. Okay, if I don't mention here my open application, so then my script is not going to work, because after opening the browser I am going to open my application, then only I am going to enter my username and password. If you swapping these methods, okay, if you swap these methods, so then your application is not going to work. For that reason only we have to follow the priority. Okay, we have to follow the priority to automate this .xlsx file. Okay, your scripts will fail because of the Excel sheet is more important inside this keyword driven framework. Okay, if you don't follow the priority, your scripts will fail. Okay, that's the reason why we have to follow the priority if you want to execute your scripts properly. Okay, we have already created a package here, right? So you can see our package name here as com.excel file utils. Okay, inside this Excel file utils I created a class called as Excel file utils. Okay, this is my Excel file utils class. Okay, so here we discussed already. Here the property file means we can store any kind of data into property file, means it is a storage device, right? We can store any kind of data inside this properties file, right? We can store any kind of this we can store any kind of data inside this property file. Okay, we can retrieve the property file information with the help of property file utils class. Okay, to retrieve the information from properties file class, so we created already one method called as get value for key. So in the same way, if I want to retrieve my Excel test data, I am going to create a class that is called as Excel utils. Okay, so like that in Excel sheet also we are going to store all the kind of data for accessing the Excel data, right? So for accessing the Excel data, I created a class that is called as Excel file utils inside Excel file utils package. Okay, we are working on Excel file, means I want to retrieve the data from Excel file, right? We are working with Excel document, means we are working with Excel file, means I want to retrieve the data from Excel file. Okay, Excel file, because already some data is available. For that we have to add some jar files. Okay, because already some data is available inside this .xlsx file. To access all this information, we have to add one dependency called as, what is the dependency? To deal with Excel related, to read and write operation to perform an Excel file Excel documents. So we need one dependency or jar file. So that, what is the jar file name, or what is that dependency tag name? That is called as Apache Py. Okay, with the help of Apache Py, so we can easily handle the xlsx documents. Okay, to deal with xlsx file documents, we have to first add all the jars which are related to xlsx file. So that's why we are going to add one jar called as Apache Py jar file. Okay, if we are working with Maven file, means we are going to add one dependency file that is called as Apache Py. You can see here I have already added one dependency tag that is called as org.apachepy. Okay, this is poor obfuscation interface model, right? Apache Py means, Apache Py is a open source tool, so where we are going to use to handle the xlsx document. Here poor obfuscation implementation. POI means poor obfuscation implementation. Okay. So I have already added dependency tag for Apache Pi. Okay, first thing here is I want to access the complete Excel sheet, right? That is called as workbook. Okay, first thing here is I want to access the complete information from the xlsx document. Okay, so that is called as Excel workbook. Okay, this is called as Excel workbook, right? I want to provide the path of that Excel file also, and then workbook, and then sheet, and then rows, and then cell, after that cell data, right? For accessing the complete sheet into Eclipse, I am going to create a constructor here. Okay, you can see here, I want to provide the path of that Excel document. For that I used here file input stream of .excel file. So this is my folder name and this is my sheet name, that is called input sheet .xlsx file. Okay, I want to access the complete information from .xlsx file, so that's why I used here a constructor. Okay, that's why I created a constructor here, Excel file utils. Okay, I am going to create a constructor that is called as Excel file utils constructor. Okay, so is it possible to create an object for constructor? Okay, is it possible to create an object for constructor? Okay, by using of constructor we cannot create an object. Okay, rather than creating an object we can initialize the object, right? Okay, so we are not it is not possible to create an object for constructor, but we can initialize some object for this constructor, right? So which means it will load all the Excel information into this Excel sheet. Okay, it will load all the Excel information into this Excel sheet, that is called as input test sheet. Okay, that's why I created a constructor here. Okay, it is not possible to create an object for constructor, but we can initialize the object for that constructor. So that's why I created a constructor here to access the complete information from the xlsx document. Okay, so here for that I am going to provide first the path here. Okay, for that I am going to provide the path here, the first. Okay, by using of file input stream we are going to read the data. Okay, by using the file input stream we are going to read the data from xlsx file. Okay, after completion of that, this complete information, okay, after completion of this, after writing the path of your xlsx file, we are going to accessing the complete information from xlsx document by creating some workbook. Okay, by creating some workbook. So how we created, you can see here I created one workbook one workbook interface here. Okay, and this is the object. Okay, so with the help of the object of that workbook I am going to create a file called as .excel file input sheet.xlsx file. Okay, by using a file input stream we are going to read the complete data from the xlsx file. After completion of that, this complete information is going to store in a sheet called as workbook. Okay, it is this complete information is going to stored in workbook. So that's why I created here workbook. Okay, that's why I created here workbook. Okay, so at the time of creating an object, our class is going to execute, means complete information is going to access. Okay, at the time of creating an object only our complete class is going to execute, which means complete information is going to access, right? So at the time of creating our object only the complete class is going to execute, which means the complete information we are going to access. Okay, in Excel sheet I need to find how many row count. Okay, how many rows are available. Okay, first I want to find so how many rows are available inside this particular sheet. For that I created a method called as row count. Okay, which is an integer type. Okay, and also I am providing the sheet name as well. Okay, on this particular sheet I am going to count how many number of rows are present. For that I created a method called as row count, which will return the integer type. Okay, the return type of this row count is integer. Okay, so first where is this sheet got present? Inside this workbook. Okay, this sheet is present inside our workbook, right? This is completely we can consider as workbook only. Inside this workbook we are containing multiple sheet. Okay, this sheet is present inside our workbook. Okay, that's why I mentioned here workbook object dot get sheet of sheet name. What is my sheet name here? Application login. I am going to store parameter for this row count method as string. And how we can get the last row number? With the help of get last row number. Okay, with the help of get last row number. Okay, so in the same way we are going to retrieve the value from column also. Okay, so that's why I am going to create one more method that is called as column count. Okay, I need to find out the column also. Okay, which will also returns the integer only. I need to find out the how many columns. Okay, so which will also returning the integer only. Okay, so then I need to retrieve the individual test data. Okay, I need to retrieve the individual test data. You can see here each and every cell is having some individual test data. For example, click action is having some individual test data. So likewise, okay, likewise I need to retrieve the individual test data. So how we can retrieve the individual test data? So how we can retrieve the individual test data? By using of string data we can retrieve the integer value. Okay, here I mentioned here string data. Okay, by using of string data we can retrieve the string value. By using of string data we can retrieve the numerical value. If that Excel document containing either it will be numeric values or string values, so I am going to get the value with the help of string, right? So you can see here I am going to mention one if else condition here. First, if workbook dot get sheet of sheet name application login dot get row of what is my row number and what is my column number, if that cell value is containing numeric value, so then I am going to do some typecasting. Okay, we are converting from integer to string, so that's why I'm doing typecasting here. So based upon that I will get the numeric cell value with the help of dot get numeric cell value. Okay, so then I'm going to store into some empty string, that is string data. After getting the value we are converting that into integer type with the help of string dot value of integer type. Okay, that is index value. Okay, you can see here that is integer value. This cell data now it is converted into integer type, so that's why we did here typecasting. So in the same way, if my string data is containing string value, so then I am going to mention this line here. You can see get string cell value. Okay, that is about get data. Okay, to retrieve the individual test data from this .xlsx file I created a method called as get data. Okay, that is called as get data. So we will discuss about this set data later in this video. Okay, till now we discussed about how we can retrieve the row count from that particular .xlsx file, and also how we can retrieve the column count from that particular .xlsx value. And the next method is how we can retrieve the individual test data from that particular sheet. Okay, based upon my sheet name, based upon my row number, based upon my column number, I am going to retrieve the individual test data from that particular .xlsx file. Okay, for all the common functionalities we can see here, for all the common functionalities we mention the method name with the help of static keyword. Okay, for all common functionalities we mention all the methods with static keyword, but for excel file utils class we didn't mention any static keyword. Okay, but for excel file utils class we didn't mention any static keyword. Okay, for all these methods we did not mention any static keyword because it is a constructor. Okay, because it is constructor. When it is going to execute at the time of creating an object only, when this is going to be execute at the time of creating an object. By using of object reference we are going to access all the methods. Okay, we are going to access all the methods. Okay, so that's why we are not using static keyword here. Okay, but we are using static keyword inside our common functionality methods, but we are not using static keyword inside this excel file utils class because it is a constructor. okay, because it is a constructor. That's why we are not going to use any static keyword. Okay, so when it is going to execute means at the time of creating an object only. With the help of object reference, we are going to access all the methods present inside this excel file utils. Okay, okay, so then there is no use of providing static keyword for this excel file utils class. Okay, we are accessing all the information with the help of excel file utils, so that's why we are not going to provide any static keyword. Okay, that's why there was no use to provide any static keyword for all these methods present inside this excel file utils class. Okay, excel file utils class. Okay, now we done with, okay, so now we done with what we done with our retrieving the data from excel file utils also. We done with retrieving the value from excel file utils also. So now I am going to write my actual code. Okay, so where is our actual code? For creating actual code, I created a package called as actual test. Okay, I created a package name that is called as com.actualtest. This package will contain our actual test classes. Okay, this package will contain all our actual test cases, right? So I created a package here that is actual test, and also in this package I created a class called as actual test. Okay, first let me open. So we will go step by step. So here you can see in this class I am going to design the code, and it is containing the actual code. Okay, and it is containing the actual code, and I have already created a method called as start test. Okay, this is my actual method, and this is my actual test case where we are going to execute now. Okay, so okay, to complete the actual information is available inside our xlsx file, right? The complete information is available inside my xlsx file. Okay, the complete information is available in my xlsx file. So for retrieving the excel information, we created a class, right? To retrieving the complete information excel file utils, we created already a class that is called as excel file utils. You can see we already created a class to retrieve all the information. Okay, so how we can call that class here? So with the help of by creating an object. Okay, by creating an object we can easily call the all the information from that particular excel file utils class. Okay, for retrieving the excel information we created a class called as excel file utils. Because of constructor I am creating an object for excel file utils class. Okay, which means that is excel file utils excel equals to new excel file utils. Okay, this time this constructor is going to be execute at the time of creating an object. Okay, at the time of creating an object this constructor is going to be execute, right? At the time of creating an object this constructor is going to be execute. At the time of creating an object, this object is created means the complete excel file is loaded or not. Okay, okay, so I think we have some confusion here. So first this is our main class, and also we have one method here. Okay, for retrieving the excel information we created already a class that is called as excel file utils class, right? Because of constructor, okay, we created an object here excel file utils, that is excel. Okay, excel file utils excel equals to new excel file utils, right? The constructor is going to be execute. Okay, this constructor is going to execute at the time of creating an object only. This constructor is going to execute at the time of creating an object, right? The object is created here means the complete excel file is loaded or not. Okay, here it is loaded, the complete information is loaded here with the help of constructor. Okay, excel file is loaded means the first sheet contains all the modules here. Okay, once if the excel sheet loaded here means first sheet loaded here. Okay, once the excel file utils got loaded here means the first sheet contains all the modules here. Okay, once the excel file utils got loaded means automatically all our module sheets will loaded here only. Okay, all our module will loaded here only. For example, if there are multiple modules, by using of these modules we are going to complete the execution will starts from there only, right? For example, if there are multiple modules, by using of these modules we are going to start our execution for different modules as well. Okay, for each and every module we have a number of steps. Okay, by using of this we are going to provide the module name into the sheet. Okay, by using of this we are going to provide the module name into this particular sheet, that is called as modules, right? So here, so let me clear it one more time. Okay, here the excel file got loaded now with the help of excel file utils class, right? So what does this excel file utils class contain? So it is containing the complete information from this .xlsx file, which means this xlsx file contain the sheet called as modules. Okay, if we have multiple modules, so we can mention all these in the form of different sheet names. Okay, for example, this is my application login. I created one sheet and I mentioned this sheet name inside this module. Likewise, if we have multiple modules, we are going to define all these modules into single sheet, that is called as module sheet. Okay, our execution will go on in the same way only. For application login, and I created one more module for home page, so I can mention the home page sheet here, that is home sheet, home page sheet. So then I can keep the execution mode here as y, then I can keep the status as y. Okay, we have a number of modules are there for iterating these modules. Okay, we have multiple modules here. For iterating all these modules, I created a for loop here. Okay, I created a for loop here. You can see we have different kind of modules, so that's why I created one for loop here. Okay, to iterating all these modules, for example, application login, and also if we have one more sheet, and also if we have one more sheet. Okay, to iterate all these modules, I am going to create one for loop here. You can see here, for int I equals to 1, I less than or equals to xl dot row count of modules. Okay, so this is my sheet name, right? So here you can see I equals to 1, I initialized one variable, integer type of variable I less than or equals to xl. So where is my xl? Okay, this is my excel file, and dot row count. Okay, this is my row count method. And what is my sheet name here? Okay, what is my sheet name? Okay, what is my sheet name? My sheet name here is modules. Okay, so here you can see my sheet name is modules. Okay, so inside this module sheet we can have a number of modules, right? So for that I created I less than or equals to xl dot row count of modules. Okay, for now here only one row. If you have multiple modules, that row count will increase, so that's why I'm taking here I less than or equals to xl dot row count of modules. Okay, if xl dot get data of modules I comma 2 dot equals ignore case of y. Okay, so now I am going to execute all my modules based upon the key that module is going to execute, right? If I mention here the status as y, so it is going to be execute. If I mention status as n here, it is not going to execute. Okay, it is completely depends upon the requirement. Okay, but for the first row, which needs to be always the status as y, because we are going to launch our application. So that's the reason why the first row will always be status as y only. Okay, if you want to don't want to execute the next steps, you can keep status as n, but for the first row it should be y only. That is the precondition, okay, to launch your application. So next I am going to take some if condition here. Okay, the next I am going to take some if condition here. If the execution mode contains y, you can see here, my y I mentioned here as execution mode. Okay, if the execution mode contains y, it will automatically execute the application and it will execute the remaining steps. Okay, if the execution mode contains y, then only it is going to execute application login, and then it is continuing for the remaining steps also. So that's why I created here if xl dot get data of modules comma I comma 2 dot equals ignore case of y. So here what is our column name, column count here? 2, right? My column value here is 2. That's why 0 1 2. Okay, 0 1 2. If my execution mode contains y, so then it is going to execute my application login and remaining steps. Okay, here y is the individual cell data, right? Here y is the individual cell data. If I don't want to execute any other module, I can keep here as n. Okay, so likewise I am going to design the script now. So now we mentioned the execution mode as y here, so that's why it is going to take the remaining steps here. Okay, so I need to define the module name here. Why? Because of we have number of modules here. for iterating modules, I am going to provide module name. So how we are going to retrieve module name here means this is also individual cell data. For individual cell data, we are going to use which method? That method called as get data. Okay, here also I need to retrieve for different modules also. Okay, with the help of get data method, we are going to retrieve the different modules data as well, right? Okay, so I'm going to provide the module name here as modules. You can see here, this is my modules, that is sheet name. Okay, and this is my row name and this is my column name, that is 1. This is module name as application login. Okay, so then I am going to take the row count of that TC module, that is this one module. I am going to take the row count, how many rows are present. I am going to keep on iterating, right? So if you can see here, this modules is containing only one row. Okay, this modules is containing only one row, so that's why I am going to keep it inside our integer variable, that is row count. Int row count equals to xl dot row count of TC module. Okay, if my TC module containing only one row, it will pick the first row. Okay, it will pick the first row, so then it is going to start the for loop here. Okay, what is my application login name here? That is my module name. Okay, so then if j equals to 1, int j equals to 1, j less than or equals to row count j plus plus, means my jth is the column name, column value, and column value is less than or equals to row count. Okay, column value is less than or equals to row count. I am going to call this one, that is object type or locator value or test data. Okay, so likewise I am going to retrieving the data for all the columns what we mentioned here. For example, this is for object type, this is for locator type, this is for locator value, and this is for test data, right? So that's why I used one string variable here, that is for description part. Then I am going to take that value, get data of TC module. What is our TC module? So I am going to take the first row, right? I am going to take the first row of 0th column, that is by 0th column here is description, that is open browser. Okay, so likewise I am going to take for object type also, that is for first column. Okay, that is for first column, and locator type here as second column, third column, fourth column, right? So likewise I am going to retrieve the value from this particular modules sheet. Okay, inside this module sheet I have only one row, that is application login. Based upon the execution mode, it is going to pick up this application login, and based upon the description part, based upon the object type, based upon the locator type, we are going to retrieve the value. Okay, so that's what I mentioned here, that is j equals to 1, j less than or equals to row count. If that string description equal to get data, get data means here it is going to take the data from TC module, right? Here it is going to take the data from TC module comma j comma 0. Here j is the first column. Okay, here the j is the first column, right? So likewise it will keep on continue for the remaining also. So you can see here, if object type dot equals ignore case of start browser. Okay, we already mentioned all our methods inside our .xlsx file. If my object type dot equals ignore case of start browser, so then what I am going to use? The common method, that is start browser, where I am going to launch my web browser. Okay, if object type dot equals ignore case of open application, so what is our next one here? Okay, open application method we are going to launch. Okay, so likewise it will keep on continue till click action. Okay, so and then, so once this is done, we are going to set some data. Okay, I am going to if my test case got passed here with these details, I am going to print the output inside my test output sheet .xlsx file. So I am going to mention the pass status if my test case got passed. If my test case got failed, I can mention the status as fail inside my test output sheet .xlsx file. How we are going to set the data? So here I created one more method, that is called as set data. Okay, this set data is mainly focusing on output only, mean validation only, right? So for that I created here one set data method. It is also accepting the sheet name and what is our row number and what is our column number and what is the string, that is pass or fail, right? So with the help of sheet interface I am going to get the sheet. Okay, so that is sheet name. So once that is done I am going to get the row. So what is the row, what we are mentioning, you will get that row here. So in my case I mentioned here, the row as 5, sorry, the row as j. Okay, the row as j here. So in the same way I'm going to mention here the row as j and the column as 5, right? So let me open our output sheet.xlsx file also. So let me go to folder, and output we don't have. Okay, here it is. You can see here, open with, where is open with test output folder, open with, okay, open with system editor, right? So here you can see it is opening. Okay, here you can see for modules, for application login. Okay, so I kept here as status as pass. Okay, and also I am going to update all my test data into this application login. The steps, all steps I am going to update inside this application login sheet name. Okay, along with the status. If browser got passed, so I am going to update the status as pass. If that start browser got failed, I am going to update the status here as fail. Okay, if the enter username got passed, so I am going to enter the status as pass along with the locator value along with the test data. If any test case got failed due to some XPath, so it will directly give you the details here. So where it is failing, it is failing on enter username row, right? So that's why I am going to create one more method to set the data after completion of your execution. Okay, so and also I am going to mention the colors also. So if my test case got passed, I am going to update my output sheet.xlsx file with the help of color green, and also I am going to make some bold also. Okay, bold is true, and then font is, okay, font size. Okay, I am going to create a font, and also I am going to set the font for that particular style, that is cell style. Okay, this is called cell. So for this cell I am going to set some font, and also for this cell I am going to set some style as well, and also for this cell and for this test data I am going to make some bold as well. So if my test case got fail, it will give you the fail. If my test case got not executing, it will give you the not executed along with the blue color. So finally we are going to write that file into this test output folder only along with the output sheet.xlsx file. So this is all about set data method. Okay, so with the help of this set data method we can write that output sheet.xlsx file after the completion of your execution with different colors. If the test case got passed, I want to write my output file for that particular cell with the color called green along with the bold. Okay, likewise if your test case got failed, it will give you with the color fail, and it is also in bold state only. Okay, for that I created a method here, that is xl.setData and j. What is my j here? That is row number. You can see here, this is my sheet name and j is my row number, and the column is, okay, this one. Okay, let me go to here. Okay, so likewise it is keep on increment. Okay, 0 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, the column value here 0 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so likewise that model status is true. If any exception got occurred, it will terminate from here, and it will update your xlsx file with fail. Okay, so likewise we are going to write our actual text. Okay, so once if you done with this actual test execution, we are going to get the output sheet inside our output sheet.xlsx file. Once if you open, you will get the status, how many got passed and how many got failed. Okay, so let me execute this test case, that is actual test, and we will see the results. Okay, let me delete this output sheet.xlsx file, and we will see. Okay, let me close this one as well. No. Okay, let me delete this output sheet. Okay, I am deleting this output sheet. Okay, as you can see here, it got deleted. So now let me go back to my project folder. So here is our, sorry, not this one, test output folder. See, now nothing was there. Okay, we deleted now. So now let me execute. From where we are going to execute? From our testng.xml file. Okay, here you can see I have already passed our testng.xml file. Okay, here I have already passed our testng.xml file. Okay, here I have already passed my test case name. What is my test case name here? Okay, that is actual test, com dot actual test, right? Com dot, what is my package name? Actual tests. Okay, actual tests dot, what is my class name? Actual test, right? Actual test. So let me execute this and we will see. Okay, why keyword driven, refresh, com dot actual test, right? Com dot actual test, test name equal test. Where is this com dot actual test? Sorry, yeah, this one, right? So this is our actual test method, right? So this is our actual test method, but this class, what it will do, we are going to mention all our modules, and also we are going to mention all our steps here. Okay, along with the module name, along with the row number, column number, and also we are going to mention the start browser, application, type action, click action. Okay, these are all the common functionalities I used for this scenario. So then we are going to call this method which is present inside this actual test. So then I am going to call that method with the help of object name of that particular class. You can see here actual test scr equals to new actual test. With the help of scr, I am going to get that start test method to here. Okay, so now let me add this one to here, that is where it got present, login. So login is present inside com dot orange hrm tests. Okay, com dot orange hrm tests dot, what is my class name here? Login, right? What is my class name here? Login. Okay, so let me execute this class now and we will see the results. Whether cannot find class in class path. Okay, what is our class name? Orange hrm test. Okay, orange hrm dot tests dot login. Okay, this is my package name, and let me execute. Okay, now you can see it is launching our browser. Okay, now it is launching our browser. Okay, it is launching the application now. Okay, how it is launching? It is taking from the properties file. Okay, after launching we are entering the username and password. You can see here it got entered and clicking on login. Okay, so that's it. It logged into the orange hrm application. Okay, so now we can go to our console. You can see there are test got executed, one test got executed, gmail login which got passed now, and if you can see in the console it got passed. Okay, so now if I want to check whether my test cases got passed or not, so how we can check? For validation we need to go to test output folder. Just you can refresh. So if you open this output sheet.xlsx file, so it will show you the complete information. Okay, how many test cases got passed, how many got failed. Okay, for that I am going to open with system editor. Okay, so now you can see here we have already mentioned for application login. You can see it is updating the details with the mentioned color, that is set data. We set some data after each and every method got passed. For example, it got launched our browser, yes, that is true. It launched my application, that is true. And it entered my username, okay, which got successful, and also it entered my password, it is also got successful, and also it clicked on that login. Okay, that is why it is also passed here. Okay, so this is how we have to suppose if you have any other module, for example, let me go to our Excel file here. Where is my Excel file? Okay, so let me go to our Excel file. So let me open this file, and I will tell you, if we have multiple modules also we can add here. Okay, so if I want to add for this one, okay, if I want to add any other sheet, for example home page, okay, home page, okay, so the respective steps we can create in the same way, just to copy and paste. Okay, you don't do in your case, you can try with some different pages, I mean different module you can try by taking different exports as per that particular page. Okay, so this is how I can mention for my home page. So once it is done, I am going to mention this sheet name inside my module sheet. Okay, so this time, so I am going to paste it here. This is my test case ID, that is called 02, right? So and execution mode will be y only, and status also should be y only. Okay, that's what we mentioned here inside our Excel file utils, not inside our Excel file utils here. Okay, start test. Okay, if that is equals, ignore case of y. Okay, what will happen if I mention here n? Okay, let me mention here it as n. Okay, it is not going to execute this time, I guess. Okay, so let me execute this one, and we will see the difference. Okay, okay, so it is launching the URL, but I think it is not going to enter my credentials here, right? Yeah, so in that way we can achieve this one. Okay, in this way we can achieve this one. So we mentioned here our key value as y, right? Previously it is y, so that is mandatory for y, because that is the first step before going for to perform any further actions. So that's why it should be always in execution mode, that is y only. Okay, so let me keep that execution mode also as n, right? So we already make that one, I guess. So open with system editor. Okay, this execution mode is n. Okay, so let me execute it now, and we will see the difference. Okay, we will see the difference whether it is executing or not. But if you don't want to execute any other modules, you can just mention there as n, so then only it is not going to execute your scripts. Okay, we will see the results how it is giving. It is launching the application, and we will see whether it is going to enter or not. Okay, so and we will check inside our .xlsx file. Okay, so now let me go back to my test output sheet, refresh, and let me open this output sheet, open with system editor. Okay, application login. Okay, so now you can see here it is not going to update any value here. Okay, it is not going to update any value here, because we kept the execution mode here as n, right? Because we kept this execution mode here as n, so that's why it is not showing you any status here. Okay, but your application will open, because we kept the, by defaultly it will launch, because we are launching the browser, right? Start browser we are using, so that's why by defaultly it will launch your browser. Okay, because these two don't have any parameters inside our xlsx file, so that's why it will always launch your browser. That's why that value should be y only for launching browser and opening application. That values must and should be y. If you don't want to, keep this type action, okay, I will let me keep it status for this one also, and we will see. Okay, so this is how it will work. Okay, and this is all about keyword driven framework. So how this folder will looks like. First I created a Maven project here. Okay, first I created a Maven project here. So how we can retrieve the values from properties file to launch our browser and URL. So that details I am going to store inside my property file utils, oh sorry, environment dot properties file. You can see properties file. Okay, here I am going to store my key and value. So after keeping this key and value, so how I can retrieve the values. So I am going to create one more class and one more package, that is hrm.utilities. So inside that I am going to create one more class that is called as property file utils class. With the help of this method get value for key method, I am going to retrieve all my key and value from that particular properties file. Once it is done, I am going to do some common actions. I am going to create some common actions such as clicking action and type action and open Gmail application. Okay, so these are all my common actions. Okay, these are all my common actions. Once if you done with your common actions, so what is our next step? So we are going to retrieve the value from our Excel document where we store all our keywords. Okay, those are all common methods. So to retrieve all the Excel document related values, so I created one folder here, so where I am going to store all my input test sheet, that is in the form of modules. Along with the modules I am going to store multiple modules as well, that is application login or home page or logout. Okay, so those three modules I am going to define inside my modules column, I mean module sheet only. So once it is done, we are going to create one class to retrieve all the test data from .xlsx file. Right, sorry. So for that reason I created one class here, that is xlsx file utils. So here I created multiple methods. For the first method here, what it will do, it will retrieve the row count, it will retrieve the column count, it will retrieve the get data method. Okay, what does it will do, it will retrieve the value, that's cell value containing numeric value, it will give you in the string format only. Okay, and also if it is containing the string value, during the time also it will return the string value only. So once that is done, for output purpose we are going to create one more sheet after our execution, and also we are providing the colors. If the test case got passed, I want to get my column value as pass only for that particular method after the execution. So after that, this is our actual test, so where we are going to iterate through our all our modules. Okay, along with all our modules we are going to call our all our methods, that is keywords, that is common functionalities. So once this is done, if my test case got passed, I am going to set that pass with the help of set data. If my test case got failed, I am going to set that module status as false. Okay, so once that is done, where we are going to launch my application by creating one class that is called a login. So that is surrounded with @test annotation, and this is my method name here. And with the help of this class object reference, so I am going to call this start test method from this actual test. Okay, I am going to call this start test from this actual test into this login class. Okay, once it is done, we are going to execute with the help of testng.xml file. Okay, so that's all it for now. So with this today tutorial, so I covered like how what is a hybrid framework, and also how we are going to create our project folder structure, and also how we are going to retrieve the values from properties file, and also how we are going to create our input sheet.xlsx file in the folder called as excel folder. So after that, how we are going to create some common functionalities. Okay, after creating all these common functionalities, I am going to store all these method names inside my .xlsx file in the form of keywords, right? So once if we store all these keywords into your .xlsx file, I am going to retrieve the all the value from that particular .xlsx file. So for that reason, we created a package called as excel file util. So inside that excel file util, I created one class called as excel file class. So in that excel file class, so I'm going to write some logic to retrieve the data from xlsx document. So once that is done, inside our actual test class, so we are going to iterate throughout all our modules. Okay, throughout all our modules we are going to iterate. So once if my test case got passed, I am going to update the status into my output sheet.xlsx file with the desired color. If my test case got passed, I will update my test sheet as pass. If my test case got failed, I will update for that particular method as failed. So once this is done, with the help of login class, we are going to start our actual execution by taking this class object reference, that is src, then we are calling this method. So then I am going to execute with the help of testing.xml file. Okay, so this is the whole process of keyword driven framework, and also it is very important concept. Okay, please if you get something knowledge from this video, please drop a like, and also please share this video to your friends or colleagues so that they will also learn about this tutorial. And also please subscribe to my channel if you are new to here. Okay, that's all it for now. Okay, we will connect with our next video. Until then, take care everyone. Signing off, Selenium Tech Automation. Thank you so much guys.